Welcome to CLARITY.SHOW podcast. I'm Karina, your host today. My guest is Diana Roesner. She is head of product enablement at SAP Build. Today, we are diving into SAP Build Discovery, platform that transforming how business approach digital transformation and innovations. Diana, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to discussing our topic. But first, I will let you to introduce yourself and share about your professional expertise and background with our audience.
Thank you so much, Karina, and hi everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today and share more about SAP Build. As you already said, I am Diana Roesner. I had the product enablement team, and together with my team, and I always stress really the team effort here, they're the ones who do the heavy lifting work. We are responsible for enabling our different audiences, so customers, partners, but also internal stakeholders within SAP to make sure they understand SAP Build, they can adopt it, and they really get the biggest value out of it. And in order to do so, we create and own and maintain all kinds of formats. Of course, these podcasts are also super exciting, but also learning journeys, tutorials, workshops. We create assets. We host webinars. We tell customers what's new in SAP Build. So there is really a big bouquet of things that we do together with a team to cover all of SAP Build for our audiences.
Important role and responsibilities, and I love the credit to the team, so thank you to them as well for spreading the information about SAP Build. And now the time is to start. So let's discuss about fundamentals of SAP Build. Why is this technology relevant for the customers, and what sets it apart of the traditional development approaches?
Very good question, Karina. I think starting with the why is always the best. And I always say the reason why SAP Build is so important is the uniqueness of every company. And we know that every company is unique. So, of course, every company in the world nowadays is running software to operate their business. No big deal, right? Now, we also know that running standard software is the best thing you can do to be effective and efficient. Now, with that being said, we at SAP were super aware that not everything a company does is 100% standard, right? Companies are unique. They need to be unique to stand out from their competition, to stay ahead of the market, and ultimately to survive. So, of course, they will create custom applications, processes, and all kinds of innovations to stand out in their specific industry. And in the past, that meant, and many SAP customers listening to this will know that it meant creating lots of Z transaction, and it meant creating technical debt. And we, with SAP Build, really allow our customers and the developers to create these custom extensions that make them so unique, but in a way that allows them to stay upgrade friendly, agile, and ultimately we say it allows them to keep the core clean, and that way just be more future-proof. And I always say, when you think of uniqueness, it can be anything. It can be the processes you have with your suppliers, because you're just faster in interacting with your suppliers. You get the products faster, right? So it might be a supplier portal. It might be an experience you offer to your customers because you have a unique mobile app that gives your customers real-time access to certain data they need. Or maybe it's your HR processes, which then allows your employees to have a great experience, and it allows you ultimately to keep the best deal on the market. So there's so many flavors of this uniqueness, but SAP Build really allows you to create that uniqueness without creating technical debt. So really integrated with the rest of your SAP IT landscape. And you asked me what's unique about SAP Build? And that's actually the answer. So SAP Build is not any development suite. It's your development suite really 100% embedded into your SAP context. We'll talk a bit more about what exactly SAP Build entails in a little bit, but think of pre-built content. Think of you don't start from scratch. You really start with the SAP context already in mind.
Having consultant background, I can relate to both points, how it's important to have this clean core, and at the same time, we know that every industry has their unique business processes, and then every company can set up the business processes differently. And I remember the time when every customer requested a lot of that programming because it was required to write some code or functions that will allow them to stay very close to their processes and not to change them, transform them completely just because they want to keep it as a standards. And now hearing that SAP Build allow to have this pre-built functionality, but at the same time flexibility that will allow every business to have consistency in their processes, be flexible in terms of their uniqueness. It's very interesting, and let's dive more into details about the key components of SAP Build so that our audience will understand what they can exactly use there and how it can empower them to develop their business processes and automate them even more, staying close with SAP solutions, of course.
Thank you, Karina. And I love hearing about your own experience and the value you already see from SAP Build. So I always say, let's uncover SAP Build in several steps, right? It can sound complex, but it's actually not. Let's start with the top layer, the tools that you have. So the tools allow you to build different things. You can build applications, mobile and web applications. You can build automations and workflows, or you can build business sites. Think of these three categories that you want to build, and maybe you even want to combine them, right? That's also the beauty of it if you combine different innovations. Now, in the app space, we have different options. Do you want to use no code to build them? Then you would use SAP Build apps. Do you want to build with code? So we have for our Java and JavaScript developers, SAP Build Code that allows you to build also front-end and back-end, same as Build apps, but Build apps does so in no-code fashion. And our latest addition to SAP Build is ABAP Cloud, actually. So ABAP is, a key SAP programming language. And when it comes to extensions, we realize customers, of course, don't only think Java, JavaScript, no code. They also think ABAP. It's a key part of SAP. So all these three different technology stacks are part of SAP Build, and you can even combine them. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And similarly, you have SAP Build Process Automation to build your workflows, your automation, so really automating your processes. Also, again, there, you can combine your processes, let's say, with an app that you have built in SAP Build apps, right? So these things don't have to run separate. And then last but not least, we have SAP Build Workzone, which allows you to build your portals, your business sites, these digital experiences that you need for your employees, suppliers, to then maybe consume an app, right? So also here, these different tools can really work in symphony to get the most value. That's the tool layer. Now, you think, these are so many different tools. What makes them one SAP Build? That's the lobby. So the lobby, I always say, like a hotel lobby, you come in and you decide what you want to build. So you enter the SAP Build lobby. It's not its own product. It's just really the entry page where the developer comes in and decides what do they want to build and how do they want to build it, using code or no code, using ABAP, using JavaScript, all these different options. But besides being the entry point, the lobby also allows our developers to monitor the projects. Lifecycle management happens there. You can combine different projects into another. You can collaborate even, right? So I could start building an app and then you continue, right? Because we're a team, or because I go on vacation, or because we have different skill sets. Whatever the reason is, also that happens from within the lobby, right? And that being said, of course, a big part of SAP Build is also that we provide governance, right? So there's always this fear, if I have no code solutions, I'm going to have people build applications that have no clue of IT standards and so on. So yes, that can be the case, but let me say here also the traditional pro code developers love using no code tools because it just makes them faster. But nevertheless, governance is a key component of using SAP Build, and that also happens from within the lobby, where we have a control tower, we have the opportunity to monitor different projects, how often are they used, and so on. And then of course beyond that, we have the standard governance functionalities that we have from SAP BTP, so the SAP Business Technology Platform that SAP Build runs on. So when it comes to identity, to security, all of that is provided by default from SAP BTP. Now, next layer is what I call the accelerators. So developing is wonderful, but you want to be as fast and you want to be agile, and that also makes it more enjoyable. So I always talk about two types of accelerators. One is AI, no big surprise. AI is everywhere. And at SAP, we're really serious about AI, and not just for the sake of AI, but for really making your work more productive and just more fun. So we'll talk about AI in a little bit, but I can tell you there's lots of great ways that Joule and also embedded Gen AI capabilities accelerate your development. That's one accelerator. Your other accelerator is what I already mentioned earlier, pre-built content. So think of it, you don't start from scratch. You have your pre-built workflows. You have pre-built RPA bots, automations that are built by SAP based on the experience we have from many other customers, where we know this is how a best practice could be, and we give this to your hands so you don't have to start from scratch. And then the last layer is, of course, that it's deeply integrated with other SAP systems. So as an example, we have from S/4HANA Public Cloud the opportunity to start an extension right from your application in S4, and then it will start the extension in SAP Build with your business context already part of it. That's the extensibility wizard. So it's just a way of showing you, we don't mean to extend and build innovations on a complete greenfield starting from scratch. It always happens in your SAP context. And that's SAP Build. So just to sum it up, it's a very powerful suite of solutions with low code and pro code capabilities powered by Gen AI.
Very well designed. And I'm imagining that, for example, being, let's say, I don't know, owner of the company, and I want to automate my lead to cash processes. And now I have such suite where I can use the tools to design my own processes with either no-code apps or with Java or with ABAP if I use traditional SAP solutions. Then it's important to have this lobby. As you said, this is like monitoring of all the processes and development to see how good it performs, are there any errors, and all the details about also governance. It's important to have it in one place. And then on the top of it, of course, everybody is looking for AI, and you have it already in this accelerator part and pre-built contact. So either I'm starting my journey of the automation processes like a new company, or I'm already on the way and I have some SAP solutions, and I mentioned like example lead to cash processes. I see that on each layer I can take something for my processes from SAP Build and make the implementation faster and more efficient because everything is structured and orchestrated in one place, and I see the performance of it in the lobby. So like if I want to do marketing campaign, I can develop my own website in minutes with pre-built content, with the capabilities that we have in SAP Build. Or if I want to collect my CRM data somewhere in database and start to use AI in order to, for example, either get immediately insights with Joule or something else, everything here in SAP Build. So as we touched upon this AI topic, and it's important for the audience to know what SAP deliver in this sphere. So let's discuss how it's transforming AI development with SAP Build, particularly with Joule Studio, and what kind of tasks can be automated with AI capabilities in SAP Build.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karina. I actually wanted to add, now that you were explaining earlier, so for example, if we think of CRM data, right, like a very classical scenario is that we have salespeople out there. Of course, SAP has a sales cloud, right? We have a CRM, but you want to make available the data from your CRM on the go in a mobile app that can be accessed offline. And then, of course, SAP Build would be a way to make that happen, right? So just adding some more life to what you were just talking about. Now, AI plays a role everywhere in our daily lives, we know that. And of course, it also plays a big role for development. So I always say when talking about AI and SAP Build, there's actually two sides of the coin. One side of the coin is we make development faster using Joule and Gen AI. The other side of the coin is we make AI extendable using SAP Build. Okay, keep these two sides of the coin top of your mind. Let's start with the first side. And that is, how do we make development faster and better using Joule? So the co-pilot we have at SAP for your business tasks. but also embedded capabilities. And I'll just give you a few highlights. Really, by now within SAP Build, we have so many Gen AI capabilities. We were actually pretty early, starting with Gen AI. And maybe a little personal anecdote. I was on maternity leave 2 years ago, 2023, and that's when ChatGPT kind of exploded. And I see the stuff that my colleagues are doing. I'm like, wow, the world is talking about ChatGPT, and at SAP we already have Gen AI embedded into SAP Build code. So at SAP we were fast. We are fast. We're constantly challenging ourselves. Where else could we use it? What are good scenarios? And now that I mentioned SAP Build code is actually a nice way of starting to highlight a few things. So of course, also known to many developers already, we allow to generate entire applications, so app logic, data models, and test scripts using Gen AI. You have to think about it. You sit in your IDE, in your development environment, you have a little chat window with Joule, and what you do is simply put in there in natural language what you want Joule to develop, and Joule is going to make you a proposal, and then you're going to look at it and be like, if you're a coder and this is not really, let me enhance it, or this is great, let me simply accept it. So just imagine how much that accelerates your development if you have like a little assistant doing the heavy lifting for you, and then you can simply review, improve, right? And you don't start from scratch. Also within SAP Build code, I can ask Joule to explain code, look at certain code snippets. So also there, your little assistant, little is probably not the right way to put it, your powerful assistant to help you make development faster. And of course, this is not only on the pro developer side or on the pro code side, right? Also on the no code side, we have really powerful capabilities that just make it more enjoyable to create your applications. So another example in SAP Build apps would be you can create a UI based simply on a business object. Let me give you an example. You have the business object vendor, right? So you tell SAP Build apps, hey, go through my BTP destinations, select vendor here from my S4HANA system, and then make a proposal what a UI could look like. And then SAP Build apps is going to come up with a proposal of not just one UI, but several UIs, and even going to propose you the logic between these different UIs. So how could I navigate? Maybe I have vendor name, and then from there I could go to the history with this vendor. I could have other details, spread out through different UIs. And that happens automatically. So also here, it's just wonderful, and we all know it, when you don't have to start from scratch, but you have really Gen AI helping you get started, and then from there you can enhance, improve, or maybe you just got inspired, but you really have your assistant to drive development. Another example, and then I'm going to stop with this first side of the coin. Another example is in SAP Build Process Automation. Also here, I can generate entire processes using the embedded Gen AI capabilities, right? I don't have to start from scratch. I can say, build a form, build an approval, build a decision for me, and then I can really just model the entire process just giving natural language prompts. So it just makes it so much easier, and we always say low code is one stage. Really managing your development with AI and with natural language is like the next stage. And for now, we combine them, and it just makes it so much faster and so much more enjoyable. Now, that's one side of the coin, right? Let's think of the other side of the coin that I mentioned earlier. We also make AI extendable and better using SAP Build. What does that mean? And you mentioned Joule Studio earlier. Joule Studio is actually what I'm talking about. So Joule Studio is another product within SAP Build, or another solution that will go GA pretty soon, few weeks from now. And what it allows you to do is extend Joule to reflect your custom skills. What does that mean? So today, Joule assists you in many different things in your SAP world, right? Examples are in success factors. It will allow you to create better goals for your yearly planning. There's all these different ways where Joule supports you. Standard Joule capabilities. But just like with everything, we know customers don't only want to use the standard, they also want to create their own skills. Maybe integrating Joule with a third-party system. We know that customers run third-party and SAP both, right? One example that was in a keynote recently was You might want to integrate it with your ServiceNow system because your tickets run through ServiceNow, right? So you can create a Joule skill that will, for example, pull tickets from ServiceNow and then display them to you in your SAP Start, right? Just to give an example. And this skill is, of course, not coming by default, but an IT department can develop this additional skill in the Joule Studio. So the Joule Studio, you have to think it's the design time, the development environment. It's also low code, so no coding required. And that's where you teach Joule to learn a new skill. You teach Joule once, and then you make it available to your organization. And then everyone in the organization could say, hey, Joule, please pull this and this ticket from ServiceNow and provide me an update. All of this in SAP Start, right? So here, that was the other side of the coin. We make your Joule skills much broader, extendable using SAP Build.
Wow. Just coming back to the first side of the coin, and I heard before about how Joule can help to generate the base of code and improve and speed up your, let's say, coding practices, because even from the personal point of view, sometimes when I need either to create a user story or something else, I see how beneficial Gen AI here in order to provide some baseline, and then you apply your critical thinking, your expertise to create something which is the real user story, and you can validate it. And the same way, as I heard from your side, programmers, they need to review this code, either they accept it or add something else, but base is developed faster, and you just apply your creativity and critical thinking on the top of it. I didn't hear before about these UI proposals, and for me it sounds very, very magical, like you can just apply your creativity, ask some questions about what type of UI you want to develop in natural language, and then you receive options and you can choose the option. You don't need to develop each options to validate them and compare, but you can receive them as a kind of simulation modeling and then choose one. So it's also provide more varieties without even coding something in advance. And of course, the second side of this coin, Joule Studio, I believe that rather than being as we previously was executors of different actions, right now we are objectives-driven designers of the processes. So either this is a customer who is using SAP Build, or partners who want to develop something specifically for a customer's needs. They have right now this tool, and they can simulate something, modeling something, see different options, develop something with this base line of the code. And I can just imagine that in the nearest future, we will develop applications or automate our processes at the speed of like, I don't know, in a day, in hours, and it won't require like months of development as it was before. And it sounds very futuristic, and it's coming very soon. So it was interesting to hear about all this part, and let's imagine that now we have the customer who heard our talk and now think, yes, I want it, I want to try it. So where to start? Where is this implementation journey begin? And what prerequisites should organization have in place to start to use SAP Build? And what trainings is required, and how to integrate these functionalities that we can develop with SAP Build with our existing SAP landscape?
So the beauty is with SAP Build, there is no prerequisites. You can get started right away. Some customers always come to us and say like, oh, do I have to be on S4HANA? No. SAP Build can really also be part of your journey from ECC to S4HANA, because you can start using it while using ECC, and then your innovations will still stay valid and valuable as you move to S4HANA. Right? So it doesn't matter where in your journey you are. You can get started either using the free tier that you might be familiar with. So really the free version of SAP Build, get started, try it out. You can use a free trial as well. That's limited in time. Or if you have S4HANA, you're already entitled to use SAP Build, but you might not know it, right? So both private cloud and public cloud have SAP Build bundled into it. And then if you're a CPA customer, you also already have access to it, right? It's just a matter of activating it. So there's all these different options for you to get started. Do you need training? It really depends where the developer or the person that wants to get started stands, right? The low-code side is definitely something you can play around with and just get started. There is also many, many, many different learning journeys and tutorials out there. I know we're going to link them, I think, in the show notes later so people can find them. There's really basic beginner level learning journeys that guide you through step by step, explain to you what are you doing, where do you need to click, and so on. So there's definitely an opportunity for people that are maybe not as technical to still find guidance, because also for the no-code tools, I always like being very transparent there. You don't need coding skills, but you need some kind of technical mindset, right? So maybe it takes you a little bit to get in there. Other people go in it and it flows right away. But for those that do want some training or even a certification, it's available on learning.sap.com. Again, we're going to link it. For those that want to get started with a practical exercise, there's tutorials. We'll also link them in the show note. So really, there's a lot of offerings out there, but it depends very much on where you're starting. But then there's no strict prerequisite for you to get started.
Yes, I believe that the platform is very intuitive itself, and I can confirm that learning.sap.com is very well designed learning platform where we have different journeys and we know where to start and what to learn next. And the information, instructions, they are very detailed with videos, and we can, as users, just follow these instructions and onboard easily to any type of the solutions. And yeah, it's great that there is no prerequisites required and free option is available, because sometimes, especially business owners, they have doubts like, I need to invest in this solution, but I don't know if it's really something that fit into my landscape or can cover my requirements. I wish I will have this opportunity to try it out, like look and feel, walk through the solution, see either there are any real benefits for my business, and then dive in and start to use it and invest money into project implementations, for example. And it's amazing that for S/4HANA clients, public or private cloud, it's available just from the subscription that they have, so with the licenses that they will purchase. And I believe that some customers can have doubts like, hey, we're still in this old version of SAP, we use ECC on premises, how we can use this solution, and you just confirm that it's also possible to connect at any type of ERP that they have, either this is a cloud or ECC. All right, so the most interesting part, I believe, for any listener is to hear real case studies, the use cases that either customers of SAP has or even SAP runs on SAP Build. So Diana, can you please share with us case studies, real use cases?
Yeah, very happy to. And we have so many of them. So I just picked two, as you said, as we prepared for this podcast today. One I want to tell you about is Pillar Blowers. Pillar Blowers is a German company that produces performance blowers and compressors for the process industry. So classical, what we call in Germany, like a hidden champion, very successful company in their niche industry. And they had the issue that they had so many different systems, ERPs that they were using. And of course, that made the user experience for their employees pretty broken, right? Because they had to navigate to one system, navigate to another system. I'm almost certain that as people are listening to this, they'll think, oh, it might be similar in my company, right? So what Pillar Blowers did is they built like an employee portal. It's called Pillar Workzone using SAP Build Workzone, that allows their employees, their managers, and learners to get role-specific access to their tasks and processes, and of course also approve tasks that they need. And with that, they were really able to create this unified experience. And we all know how incredibly powerful it is if you can access your tasks quickly. You don't have to navigate and search as you have to perform your daily tasks. And to Pillar, this was so meaningful that they then also looked, okay, what was actually the ROI to this? And it was, for them, it made them 80% faster in their daily work and the access to their daily tasks. So that's one really great example. Fairly recent as well, from last year. And then, as you already said earlier, it's not just our customers out there, which we have many, many of, but it's also SAP itself. So at SAP, we definitely have this philosophy of drinking our own champagne or eating our own dog food, no, depending on how you want to put it. And we say, like, if we don't use it, how can we expect our customers to use our solutions? So at SAP, we use a variety of SAP Build solutions, from SAP Build Workzone for our internal business site creation. We use SAP Build apps, but we also use SAP Build Workzone. And when we say we use it, we actually put it into the hands of our employees. So all of us can actually create workflows, build apps, or build Workzone sites using these tools. But coming back to what we were discussing earlier, the whole aspect of governance and kind of keeping control of things, at SAP, what our internal SAP IT did was they created a center of excellence. So with the center of excellence, they support, mentor, guide, and also monitor applications build. So employees in different departments can build their own automations and workflows. And we have over 60 workflows and automations built already, so quite a bit. You have to think many more get started. We have many ideas in the pipeline, but then to really turning it into a live, running, productive solution is really a whole different step, right? And we have over 60 of these that IT supports, monitors, but that were originally built by people sitting somewhere in the business units. And one example comes from the finance area. The finance area is actually the leading area when it comes to automating things, because I think they have many tedious processes, right? All those book closing activities they have on a regular basis, and they were able to automate the order to cash process and really automate 80% of their invoices. So again, just one example from over 60, but also at SAP, we're proud and happy users of SAP Build.
Love the example that measurable achievements like 80% of increasing time. It's impressive, and I can imagine how struggle different companies, especially manufacturers that have a lot of different ERP systems, and they trying to accumulate this information somewhere to govern it together. And having this employee portal that was developed by SAP Build, with SAP Build, it's very time consuming enhancement, as I believe, and we heard it's 80%. And this is a good example that SAP is drinking its own champagne, show as a role model to the customers how to utilize all those solutions, how they're beneficial for financial, for order to cash. And this central of excellent example is also very useful. And I believe now our audience have different examples how in real world scenarios SAP Build bring efficiency and automate the processes. Diana, it was such a pleasure to have this conversation with you, and we brought so many points to our podcast audience about how, what, and why users can achieve with SAP Build. So, as you mentioned before, all the references that we mentioned during this conversation we will attach to the comments description of our podcast episode in any platforms such as YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. So, thank you, our dear listeners, for being with us today, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next episode. Diana, thank you for you also.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.